Peace in, peeps! What big pile of shift are we going to dig into today? I'm Steph, and welcome to Steph's Shift Show, the place where headlines meet the heart, where heroes remind us what's possible. Here we uncover hidden biases, call out broken systems, and shine light on bold solutions. Because shifting the conversation is how we build better people, stronger communities, and lasting personal peace. Hey peeps, welcome back to Steph's Shift Show. I'm Steph and very excited to be joined by my daughter, Stella, for another 8-part series based on the beautiful themes of one of our favorite musicals, Wicked, because it's giving us an opportunity to have some shifting conversations about how we're showing up in humans. And today's episode, Stella, we're going to discuss the limiting beliefs that keep us stuck in our yucks, right? And Stella's generation of young adults and my generation of not as young adults, we all are carrying labels and identifying what they are, who gave them to us, where did they show up, and how are they maybe limiting our lives? Do you say things like, I'm impatient, I'm too passionate, I'm too emotional, I'm not good with tech? I want you to think, what labels do you have? What labels are you identifying with? And I just want you to name it, because Stella and I are going to give us opportunities to think about how we may want to shift it. Maybe we don't even realize the labels we have and how they are limiting us, you know?
Yeah. And this happens with Gen Z too. We often feel branded online. Oh, I have ADHD, or oh, I'm an anxious person, or I'm lazy. It gets baked into our identity really early. And we don't always question it, because maybe, at times it feels true, or worse, it could start to become part of who you are. So it's very important to pay attention to those labels that you're giving yourself, and make sure that they are labels of a life that you are wanting to live. It's very important to know that you have choices and you can make that shift. And what would happen if you shifted out of those negative labels
and got intentional, got lit, got living intentionally today? Because maybe the label isn't where we want to be living. Maybe the label, we don't want it to be true. And so we can shift. The labels sometimes are giving us permission. And stay with me here, because labels can sound like, this is just who I am. I'm just an impatient person. I've always been in sales and grinding out to the next step and level. It almost serves you to be impatient. And so for myself, I'll just hold on to that label of, I'm not a very patient person. But maybe that's not who I want to be. Labels sometimes can help us make things predictable. If I hold on to a label, I can be more predictable. This is who I am. This is how I've always been. So I'm predictable. It also gives us an opportunity to not explain our behavior without changing it, right? It's almost like we're meant to live under these old labels, and yet we're not, because they're limiting us. My personal example is, I have told myself I'm not a patient person. I've even been asked in interviews. It's almost like a qualifier if you're in sales. If you're patient, that means you're not driving to close a sale or prospect more prospects. So I lived and believed and created the life around me not being a patient person. And that doesn't hold true for me anymore. And it's because I don't want it to hold true for me anymore, Stella. I'm a mom. I want to navigate my life and I want to be able to set an example of patience and I want to feel patience in my own life. I think that's really important. I've also struggled with being a punctual person. I'll be honest. I would show up 5, 10 minutes late everywhere and I would make excuses. And I labeled myself that I'm not a punctual person. Or I would say, like, I show up on time. And I held that label for a long time. And I would tidy things up and I'd get in my car and I'd be driving really fast because I'm gonna, let's just be honest, I'm gonna be late. And I lived in that way for a very long time until I got intentional with my own labels this year. And I came into 2025 and I was like, Steph, it's not okay to just keep showing up late. I've had friends make comments to me about how frustrating it can be when they've made plans and I'm always 10 minutes late. And so it really hit. And I chose to shift out of those labels. And I've been practicing patience and I've been practicing punctuality, not perfection, but patience practice and punctuality practice. And so then I put little steps into my days where I'm intentional to make sure I either set a timer or I set my clocks fast. I give myself permission to leave my room a mess, leave dishes in the sink, because I am becoming a punctual person. And my patience, wow, I've opened my mind up to accepting a new label that I'm becoming a more patient person. Notice I didn't say I am a patient person. I said I'm becoming a more patient person. So when I had to go outside and blow my leaves the other day, and I have this huge orange extension cord that's just, it's in a knot because my non patient version of myself didn't want to wrap it slowly and carefully so that it was ready for the next time. I would just wad it up. I do this with our vacuum, right? I'm like, I'm done vacuuming. I just throw it away. Well, then the cord is all tangled. So that's just my simple and silly example of, like, I went out to the yard and this giant cord, and I sat there and I encouraged myself to untangle the entire cord. Now, I probably could have left it about half tangled and still gotten the job done, but I was intentional to practice my patience and got every last little knot out of that darn cord. And I will tell you what, that simple little gesture of me practicing my patience, it empowered me. Like, I felt so proud of myself for choosing to be patient. Yeah, silly example, but that's where labels had limited me. And honestly, they made me feel yuck. I'm all about creating days with more yays and less yucks. And it felt yucky to show up late and disappoint my friends. It felt yucky to go about life frantically and urgent with everything. So just maybe you can see yourself in my silly examples. Dr. Carolyn Leaf, she has a beautiful way of helping people really detach from labels. Even like Stella was saying, your younger generation, they've been labeled with ADHD or they've been labeled with anxiety. And she goes deep into those labels and how sometimes even a diagnosis is a permission slip to stay stuck. It's a permission slip to less than desirable behaviors. And man, I love how she brings that up. And I like her thought process on labels. I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. The National Science Foundation tells us that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts. And of those, 80% of them are negative thoughts, which means that we're just constantly repeating these negative thoughts or negative labels to ourselves, probably without even noticing how often you're really doing it. Psychology Today tells us that by age 7, kids are already internalizing those identity roles given to them by adults. So whether it's your birth order, you're the stereotypical firstborn or youngest child or middle or wherever you fall in, whether you're the athletic kid or the one that just does okay in school, those labels don't always
Yeah.
start in adulthood, and they begin as young as even 7. They've already internalized some of those labels that they've been given. And the Harvard Cognitive Bias Study tells us that it takes 3 to 5 times more effort to unlearn a false belief or a false label that you've put on yourself than it is to form a new one. And so break those bad habits and shift out of those labels and become intentional with the beliefs that you have about yourself.
Wow, those are some great stats, Stella, and very eye-opening. And again, we talk a lot about 5 core human skills, especially that are critical now in this era of AI, where we're really leaning into being humans and maybe better humans, leveled up humans, and that curiosity. I would say getting curious about your labels, whether they came as young as 7 in some cases, or labels like my examples where I just noticed my own lifestyle choices and I labeled myself. I will say one of the ways to shift out is by choosing, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, get lit, living intentionally today, get curious, get creative. What are my labels? What do I keep telling myself? How do you see young adults labeling themselves? What are a couple examples that you've seen in your generation?
A lot of the diagnosis labeling stuff. I have anxiety, I have depression, I have ADD. Like, kind of get over yourself, dude. You don't have to live as someone who just has this
Okay.
crippling whatever it is. You can choose to
Yeah.
not live into that every day, and it'll become much more manageable. It might even get rid of your issue.
Like Dr. Leaf was saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the diagnosis is a permission slip
Yes.
to stay stuck.
And I personally know people that choose to live their life that way. And it's a little bit embarrassing. I'm a
Okay.
little embarrassed for you.
Well, here's the thing, and we don't have to be embarrassed for them, but we can certainly say, hey, there is an opportunity to shift out of that label
Yeah.
and take that. And if you want that to be your truth, say, okay, I understand maybe I've been diagnosed with depression or ADHD or things like that. And I just am going to assume that this can be controversial right now, how I'm bringing this up. But get curious, do your own research, do your own critical thinking, and investigate other thought leaders and physicians that have spent their years and life studying human behaviors, and peek at what things like Dr. Carolyn Leaf says. If you want to truly unsuck and unstuck your life, then make a choice and see how you could shift out of that. I would say something that is taught very commonly is affirmations. Do you guys hear about affirmations and what does that look and sound like? Because I know sometimes it's stand in front of a mirror and instead of maybe you don't feel like you have money or you're fit or whatever the things are, and then if you stand in front of a mirror, you write down, I am fit, I have wealth, I am brilliant at technology, I am, and they make a whole bunch of I am statements. But if you're not fit when you're saying it, you have a disbelief in your own affirmation. And so I encourage us to use affirmations that sound more like this is who we are becoming, or this is what I'm practicing, or this is what has become intentional for me to do this year, or this day, or in this moment, rather than just saying a statement that at the time isn't believable. Because if you don't believe it, your affirmation will not help you to shift out, right? And
Right.
so I think saying things like, I'm practicing my patience, I'm a more punctual person in 2025, that still feels safe to me. I'm a more punctual person than just being like, I'm a punctual person. I'm a patient person. I would be like, not really, but I am practicing and I am becoming and I'm being intentional. So just beware for you what feels truth and how you can use specific words as you are choosing the shift around a label that's keeping you stuck and frame it accordingly.
So, getting into how to actually flip a label, first step, and there's 5, spot the label. So, identify what you've been, carrying around, how you've been living as this label, spot it. Step 2, trace it. Where did it come from? Maybe it stems from childhood, culture, trauma, maybe even trends. Step 3, challenge it. Is it still true? And do you maybe even want it to be true? Is this a label that you are wanting to continue to live as throughout your life? Step 4 is replace it. So, what version of you deserves to be living instead? Get rid of that old label. Pick something that is a good quality of who you are now, or maybe a goal quality of who you wish to become, and then reinforce it. So, what's one small action that will help you become the person you're wanting to be, or fill into or fit into that new label that you have given yourself?
Yeah. Okay, so let's repeat those. So, first, spot the label. 2, trace it. Where did it come from? 3, challenge it. Is it true? If it's true, do I want it to be true? Replace it. I don't want to stay impatient. I don't want to stay the late friend that disappoints others, right? So, what version of you do you want to be? So, replacing it and then reinforcing it, making small steps, small choices each day to say, I'm becoming patient, I'm becoming punctual. It could sound like, I'm bad with money. I'm learning to lead myself more responsible with my finances. I'm the anxious one. I'm building resilience and calm. You get the idea how you can reinforce it and reframe it to have that shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think little shifts, one day at a time. This isn't, I'm going to just relabel myself a whole bunch of new things. We encouraged you at the beginning of the episode to name a label that you have held on to, that you say to yourself, maybe others gave you. What's one label that you could take those 5 steps today and make a little shift toward the label you want to give yourself?
AI can even help you with this process, whether you need help identifying your labels or maybe walking you through the steps of how to change the labels that you have into labels that you want. Start with something like this. Help me identify the labels I've internalized, how I talk about my personality, my habits, my strengths, and my struggles. Where am I using limiting language? And where might those labels come from? Then help me reframe them to align with growth-based identities and suggest small daily actions that can help support my shift.
Ooh, that's a heck of a prompt. I actually used it in preparation for this show, and I have been labeled. I have been labeled by others. I label myself. I've been an AI native user for 3 years, so my AI knows me very well. And it was amazing what it came back to me with. And I get emotional because I've been labeled things like intimidating. I give myself like the patience thing. There's parts of me in the labels that have come up for my life, and AI gave me really beautiful context of how to help me reframe it. And even it knows me so well that it gave me grace for some of those labels. Like I could see stuff, why these labels have shown up in your life and maybe even been true, or you've lived into them being true. However, these are small things you could do today. And I was kind of blown away. So if any of y'all are getting more and more native users of AI to be a personal assistant to you in your shifts, give it a try. Because I was really, obviously, I was blown away with what that looked like. And I tell you what, shifters, we are here to create days with more yays and less yucks. And these limiting labels keeping us stuck in yuck really are not gifts to ourselves, to us living days with more yays, less yucks, and the beautiful magic that can happen when you start to replace those labels and live into the direction of how you do want to live your life, how you want to show up for self and others. It's amazing. So small, intentional shifts each day. It can make such a difference.
It can.
I love it. Well, I hope everyone listening picked a label. What label are you shifting out of or toward?
I'm shifting away from procrastinating on everything for years. It's been my New Year's resolution to stop procrastinating since I think my freshman year of high school, and I'm about to turn 22. I think just making excuses for it and being one of those people that, I get my best work done under pressure. Not really. I just get it done quicker when I only have 2 hours to do it. You got to get it done in 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to,
Why was that important for you to shift that one?
I think I would be less stressed out about stuff if I took 20 minutes each day for 2 weeks rather than 6 hours in one day. Okay. I think that would really just be a positive shift for me.
How did it make you feel about yourself as a procrastinator?
I would say frustrated of why do I keep doing this with every assignment or test ever? But I make good grades. I'm smart. It happens to work out for me, but I would be probably better off if I would time my procrastination better.
Do you have more peace being less of a procrastinator?
I'm sure that I would.
Okay, so Stella's choosing her label. We'll help keep her accountable and shifting into not procrastinating. I love it. I support you in that. You've seen me practice my patience. You've also seen me practice my punctuality. Definitely hasn't been perfect, but way improved. I mean, I literally blew my own mind. Oh, when the blueberries fell all over the kitchen floor, the whole giant pint that I had just bought. Oh my gosh, I just stood there and I laughed, actually. And I was like, okay, well, I'm now going to spend some time picking up blueberries patiently, calmly. I didn't lose my mind or my temper or whatever. So we hope that you guys will be intentional to choose a label and just do one and start to see how you can make the shifts. And as your confidence builds and you see your life feeling more yay and less yuck, then maybe choose your next one, because we all have several that probably are just not serving us. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this Wicked Shift episode. And we can't wait to see you the next time, because we're going to continue with these brilliant themes in the story of Wicked, where like Elphaba was labeled. She's labeled wicked for making a choice, leaving the norms and standing up. She's labeled because she's green and she's different. So choose your label, choose your shift, and go make today amazing. All right. Peace in, peeps. Thanks for joining us today on Steph's Shift Show. If today's conversation sparked a thought, a laugh, or a shift in perspective, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your circle. Together, we can shift the story, build better people, and create more personal peace. Peace in, peeps. See you next time.